Hey, welcome to our special show. Ryan in Sacktown, the one and only Jerry Reynolds. Coming up next, it's the Kings and the Warriors, game one on Saturday.
Audio Jungle.
We're a little more than 70 hours away from game one. Jerry, Ryan, it is so great to have you here. It is our Kings Warriors playoff preview. Jerry, how are you tonight?
I am good. Boy, all this playoff basketball, the play-in tournament's already started.
Yeah.
It's just been great. And obviously coming up over the weekend, especially the Kings and Warriors series, what a blast that'll be.
Well, Ryan, I'm happy that you're joining us here for this show. So let's get right to it. Jerry, do you think this is a fairly even series? Do you think it's a lopsided series? What is your overview as we get ready for game one?
I think it's very even. Obviously the Warriors are the defending champs and all that, but the Kings have had the better year, the better record. They're the best offense in the league, so I think you have to focus that. And they got the home court, and I think it's a very even series. And I think it's going to come down to who can make a clutch shot down the stretch of a lot of games. I think just about every game.
What about you, Ryan?
I think it's slightly skewed towards the Warriors' favor. That's why Vegas is putting them as the favorites, but I think it is very, very close.
Okay. I don't think it's that close. I believe that the Warriors experience, I think they're veteran players and they have a superstar in Steph Curry. I don't really put a lot of stock into what happened in the regular season. The Warriors played a good chunk of the regular season without Steph Curry and without Andrew Wiggins. This team knows how to win. They know what the playoffs are all about. I'm a little nervous about Keegan Murray in his first opportunity. Even though Fox hasn't been in the postseason, I think he's going to play well. But, if I'm looking at these teams objectively, the Warriors are a better team. They're just a better team. I don't care that the Kings won 48 and the Warriors won 44. Steve Kerr tanked 4 or 5 games by benching everyone and then their injuries. So to me, yeah, the Warriors don't have home court. But, Jerry, I just think they're a better team.
Well, I wouldn't even argue. I wouldn't argue that, but I would say, and I don't know that the home court makes as much difference in the playoffs as it does regular season. But the Warriors are about the worst team in the league as a visiting team. So there is something maybe there, and I'm just giving it a little bit of credibility in playoffs. To whereas obviously what they did in the regular season was just absolutely embarrassing how bad they were. But yeah, you make good points. I think the one thing that might help the Kings in this series is Andrew Wiggins coming back. He really hasn't played any games in a long time, and so to me there's likely to be some adjustment. Obviously, Gary Payton is still finding his way, although it looks like he's pretty close.
Yep.
And so there'll be some adjustments with the starting lineup if Wiggins does start, as if we've been told. And so, how all that plays out. So I think there's a little bit of maneuverability and adjustment that Steve Kerr has to go through that Mike Brown doesn't.
Ryan, the interesting aspect of this series is, or one of the interesting aspects, I think the Kings, and you and I talk about this all the time on our shows, the Kings' assist-to-turnover ratio has been very good. They take very good care of the basketball, and the Warriors have been very sloppy with the ball. I think that could be, a real factor in this series.
Oh, absolutely, Grant. I'm depending on it to be a factor because the Kings would have to take advantage of those, missteps. Warriors 30th in turnovers, which is not a very good stat to have, but that speaks also to the pace that the Warriors play at. They're able to turn the ball over more and still be successful because they're up and down the court and getting more shots. So that is something the Kings need to capitalize on, and they cannot have anywhere near the types of turnovers that the Warriors can have. That's for
Jerry,
sure.
what about that? What do you attribute the Warriors being so poor with the basketball this year?
Well, of course, they are playing, as Ryan pointed out, I mean, at the fastest pace, and so that sometimes make, but they have, it's been sloppy. I think they get into a little bit of showmanship sometime,
Uh-huh.
trying
Yeah.
to make a great pass where a routine pass will do. And I've heard Steve Kerr talk about that, and I've seen it, to where they get into a little bit of being more creative than's necessary. Now, will that continue in the playoffs? I'd almost be surprised if it does. I think they'll clean that up. I think for the Kings, the more they can make the Warriors play in the half court, their chances get better. And I mean, that's true for a lot of teams, but especially the Warriors. And they're good in the half court, but they're great in the open court.
I don't think 20-point leads are going to be a big deal in this series unless it's with 8 to 10 minutes left to go in the fourth. I think you're going to see wide fluctuations in this series. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Kings up by 20 and 10 minutes later down and vice versa. Both these teams, Jerry, will go on runs, and both these teams will give up big leads because if they go through a 4 to 6 minute stretch where their threes aren't falling and they're not scoring, these teams are too good offensively and they'll come back from big deficits.
Yeah, 3-point shooting is what it is, and
Yep.
nobody, great shooting 3-point teams, don't hit 5 out of every 10. At times they'll be 0 for 10, and at times they'll be 6 for 10. I mean, and so that's where your runs come from, and both teams will shoot threes in transition. So that just makes it exactly what you've said, and we've seen that in the 3 play-in games already that's been played, where all the teams that lost, well, 2 of them had big leads.
Yeah, Minnesota had a big lead last night.
And of course,
Yeah.
Atlanta Hawks had a huge lead against the
Uh-huh.
Heat, and the Heat got closer. So, yeah, it will be that type series. You're exactly right. It's a game of runs, and with these 2 teams, it'll be big runs.
Yeah. Ryan, you and I are going to be out at Bennett's coming up this Saturday. I had lunch there today with my umpire friend, Brian, and we had the redfish. He had never been to Bennett's before, and I go, you got to get the redfish. And he loved it, and we had a really good time there. Again, Ryan and I are going to be out there for the pregame, the halftime, and the postgame at Bennett's. Come on out and see us. We would love to be able to watch the game with you. They have plenty of TVs. You'll be able to have a good time. The food is great, the ambiance. Again, come out and join us. We're going to be at the Roseville location, Eureka and Lead Hill Road. All right, we're in Roseville, the Eureka location. Come watch game 1 with us on Saturday at Bennett's in Roseville. Ryan, let's talk a little bit about what Jerry and I were just hopping on, and that's these teams are going to go on runs, and fans shouldn't panic if all of a sudden you're down 20 in the first half. You and I talk about both these teams are going to be able to come back from big deficits.
Yeah, I mean, this is how both teams have lived all season, pretty much by the 3 ball, and so that's a product of that. But I think what the Kings fans and the Kings specifically have to be careful of with those runs is not being baited into taking quick threes if things are not going great, because that's going to increase the pace that the Warriors are playing at. The Kings can get a good 3-point shot. It just doesn't have to be the first one every time. And so that's where the discipline and, playing a little bit in the first half could negate some of those runs.
All right, we get a lot of nice chats. It says, I'm looking forward to meeting you and Ryan at Bennett's. I'm flying to go to the game. What time will you be there? We will be there we'll be there by 4:00 at the latest at Bennett's. We'll be there probably at 3:30. Jerry, I'm sorry, you were getting ready to say something.
Yeah, I do think what Ryan's talking about really is a real key here. I mean, certainly the Kings, you want to shoot the 3 and you want to have them shoot a lot of threes because that's a strength, but play inside out. Make sure that Sabonis gets a touch about every trip down. And he's good at pushing it himself and getting guys involved, the little drop-off passes. But the more you make the Warriors work and still look for your threes and just run your offense. But I think you put a lot of pressure on the Warriors if you'll play inside out a lot more.
Jerry, what do you think the matchup will be like from the Warriors' perspective on Sabonis?
Well, I mean, I think they have to start with Looney on him. It's a good matchup, I think, for Domas. I think late in the game it'll be Green. I think Draymond Green. I think when it's crunch time, I think they'll probably go small. The Kings are small, so that's not too much of a stretch, uh, because I don't think they want to get Green in foul trouble until till closing time, so to speak. But either way, I don't think that the Warriors. I've watched them a lot. Steve Kerr doesn't double much, so he'll play everybody pretty much head up, and so I expect to see the same thing.
Ryan, what do you think is a key matchup in this series? Give me something that you're looking at that you think could be a real big factor, in whether it's from the Kings' perspective or the Warriors' perspective.
For me, it's got to be Keegan Murray. That's the key matchup, just because offensively and defensively, Keegan's going to have to do a little bit more offensively than shoot the ball. He's got to get in and rebound, and that's on both sides of the floor. But specifically on defense, Keegan is going to have to not fall for those pump fakes, those silly fouls that, a veteran may not fall for, like Harrison Barnes. And so, because Keegan's going to play extended minutes more than he's typically played in the regular season, he needs to be on the floor.
All right. I think a real key in this series, a couple of individuals on the bench, and I really think that Gary Payton could have an impact on this series. I think he has come back, Jerry. He looks pretty good right now. And I think I was very impressed with how Peyton played for the Warriors in the last postseason. Then, of course, he went to Portland and the Warriors reacquired him. I think he could have a really interesting role in this series, Jerry.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt, because I think he's going to be playing on Fox a lot.
Yep.
And he is a terrific defender, much like I think Davion Mitchell will play a little more in this series than you might think normally because of Curry. He's a guy that bothers everybody, even the greater players. Curry, because the Warriors will give Curry more screens to get away from him, and that's still good for the Kings.
All right, I want to get more into that, because I think with the schedule, you go Saturday, Monday, and then you don't play again until Thursday, and then from Thursday to Sunday. So you're getting a lot of time off. The TV timeouts are longer. Jerry, do you see Fox and Sabonis playing 40 minutes a game?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I mean,
me too.
I think it makes perfect sense. Play your best players the most they can play.
So how do you play Mitchell more then? Tell me what happens. You think Mitchell's going to play more, so how's that going to work?
Well, I think if he plays more, because you can go three guards a lot against the Warriors. You could play Harrison Barnes at 4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so because that's kind of the way the Warriors play. So, but I could see Davion, as opposed to a 10 or 15-minute guy, maybe being a 20-minute guy. I don't mean he's going to play,
Sure.
but certainly in offense defense situations where you need a defender in there for a minute or two, and Curry's Curry. He, like I say, he's not going to stop Curry. Nobody is, but he will be a pain in the ass to Curry, just like he is to everybody else. And
I think another interesting aspect of this, and maybe I'm making too much out of this, it's a 7-game series. You got to win 4. But if the Kings lose game 1 at home with the buildup and everything else, the pressure that they're going to be facing 48 hours later is going to be huge. The Warriors, meanwhile, they're not going to panic. They bounce back. They're like, no problem. We'll get them on Monday. They'll be able to handle that situation, in my opinion, much better than the Kings. So I'm not saying game 1's a must win, because that's stupid. But I'm worried about that aspect, Ryan. If the Kings lose game 1, how they're going to handle a game 2 when they have not played well this year at home.
Yeah, Grant, I'm not as worried as you are. The Kings have played pretty solid when their backs have been against the wall, quote unquote, in the regular season. And if I look at those 2 games, I actually think game 1 is the one that they would lose out of those 2 at home, and game 2 would be for the win for the Kings. So I think they're going to be fine with that, and they'll be up. I mean, both teams are going to be playing in the same atmosphere,
Yep.
but I think that the Kings would be fine, almost in a better position to win game 2, having a taste of what game 1's going to be.
All right, what about you, Jerry? What do you think
Well,
about
I
that?
think I do think this. I think that whichever if the Kings lose the first one, I think it's a lot more pressure on them than if the Warriors lost the first one.
Agreed.
I think the
Yeah.
Warriors have been there, done that. I think the Kings have shown through the regular season they can bounce back, and they're certainly not gonna panic. But when you're playing the defending champs and they only have to win 3 and you have to win 4, I think I know my butt cheeks will pucker up a little bit. I don't know about anybody else's.
Hey, I want to tell you about Fosters and Paws. They are a group of animal advocates. They work primarily with dogs in shelters. They also work with young people. They teach them the lifelong benefits of having a pet. Fostersandpaws.org. You can look at their mission statement and everything that they do. And if you're not able to adopt, they could really use donations for the food and the shelters. So again, for more information, go to fostersandpaws.org. All right, let's have some fun here. Ryan, I'm going to start with you. Let's go position by position. We don't have to spend a lot of time. Let's just go around the horn. All right. Can we agree that you're going to give the edge at the point guard to Curry? Even though Fox has had a great year, you got to give the edge to Curry, correct?
Correct.
All right. What about shooting guard? Klay Thompson, Kevin Huerter.
Klay Thompson.
Me too. All right. Then let's go to the front line, depending on how you want to do it. You got Harrison Barnes, you have Keegan Murray, and you have Sabonis against the Warriors front line. Who has the edge?
I would say the Kings.
Okay.
I'm going Kings on that one.
All right. What about the bench?
Bench would probably be the Warriors at this
All right.
point.
Jerry, I'm going to go with you. You're going to go with Curry over Fox?
Yes.
All right. What about shooting guard, Huerter or Thompson?
Got to go with Klay. Been
Yep.
there, done that.
All right. What about the front line? I told you with Barnes, Murray, and Sabonis against the Warriors front line.
I like the Kings.
I do too. What about the bench?
Probably got to go with the Warriors at this stage. I think the Kings have got a good bench, but I think with the Warriors, with Wiggins coming back, DiVincenzo has been really good
Yes, he has.
late in the year, and certainly Peyton off the bench, Poole off the
Poole.
bench. Pretty hard not to give them the slight edge there.
All right, Jerry, I've been getting this question a lot, and so has Ryan. So you're a perfect guy to ask about this because you've been in a lot of coaching locker rooms. You've been a head coach. You've been an assistant. There's been a lot of questions that I get. Well, gee, Mike Brown knows the Warriors better than anybody. And I'm like, well, that's true. But coaches leave staffs all the time, whether they're head coaches or assistant coaches, and they go to other teams. And to me, there's no mystery to what the Warriors are going to do. They play the same way. They've been playing the same way. They win championships. So to me, there's no real secret formula. But do you buy into the fact that, that's an advantage for the Kings because Mike Brown spent the last 6 years or so there?
I do, but I think it's probably a lot less of an advantage than most people do. I mean, I definitely think it's an advantage because he certainly has some ideas of what you can do against Curry, what you can do against Klay, Poole. But having said all that, you can have an idea, but he's not guarding them. And I know from my experience, you can know exactly what to do against Michael Jordan, but you can't. But it doesn't work, And I mean, Curry's in almost that category that if he's going good, he can't be guarded. Sometimes he'll miss shots. And that's what you hope, that he just have one of those nights where some of those shots don't go in. But so I guess in a nutshell, yeah, I think it's a slight advantage, but very slight.
Hey, you had Danny Ainge who thought he could guard Mitch Richmond, and he found out real quickly in the first quarter of the game against the Warriors that wasn't going to happen.
Yes, he did, and that's usually the way it works sometimes. Players get an idea of what they can do, or coaches what they can do with certain guys, and about midway in the game, he's like, "Whoops, that ain't gonna work." And so then there'll be a lot of that for both teams. There'll be a lot of that. Well, how many open shots will you give Draymond Green? I think you'll give him a lot. But if what if he makes a few, then that could change. So, that's where coaching comes in, is the adjustments during the game. They're going to have their game plans, and the odds are that during the game, part of that plan is falling apart. They got to come up with another plan.
Kings Warriors game 1. Don't forget that Ryan and I will be at Bennett's in Roseville. Pre-game, halftime, post-game. Come on out and watch the game with us. Bennett's in Roseville, Eureka, and Lead Hill Boulevard. We're really excited about that. Game 1 coming up for you on Saturday. All right. So we have a series that's spread. I can't believe that if it goes 7 games, that's on April 30th. I think it's crazy, but it is what it is. Here's inevitable, Ryan. It's been a horrible year for the referees. I think we can all agree on that. And I'm sure that there's going to be bitching and moaning with Draymond Green. To me, Draymond Green is a wild card in this series. I still am not convinced that he can maintain his composure enough without hurting his team, whether it's via a ejection / suspension. So I think how he maintains his composure, and you can say, well, it's the playoffs. No, last year against Memphis, you remember he got ejected in game 2 and created quite a scene. And so I don't know about him, Ryan. I know he's good. He's very good. I think every team in the league would love to have a Draymond Green in the postseason, but there is that about him,
Yeah, no, there is, Grant. And at times he's going to be asked to guard Sabonis, who is incredibly fundamental. He can be a magician with that basketball, but he can also be very physical. And you look at, in the playoffs typically are called a little bit more physical. They let him play a little bit more. That is a huge advantage for the Kings. If the Kings can keep their heads and not get into that game with Draymond, then that could really benefit them, because the Warriors, I mean, when you speak of physicality, they are 30th in the league at free throw attempts. So they don't like to get down in the trenches, and that's where the Kings could have a very distinct advantage as long as you don't play into those mind games, frustration stuff with Draymond.
Yeah, with Draymond, I've always said, I mean, if the officials really wanted to call it right, correctly, I mean, he'd be kicked out of every game in the first quarter.
Yep.
I mean, when you when you go to officials as like he does, it's like, DeMarcus back in the day. But, invariably, he knows that he might get a one technical, but he'd have to, kick somebody in the private parts to get the second one, which he has done. I mean, so
sure.
I think if you're Steve Kerr, I think you're always concerned about that, because he's always what makes him a good player. And I'm certainly not in the idea of he's a Hall of Famer by any stretch, but he's a very good player, but he's always on the edge. And that's why he is a good player. And that's why he may not last all 7. He may miss one.
Ryan, who's winning this series and how many games?
Oh, here we go. I have the Warriors winning this series in 7 games. I think they split in Sacramento. I think Sacramento wins the next 2 at the Chase Center, and then they split leading to game 7 with the Warriors and their experience being too much for Sacramento in a game 7.
All right. I don't think the Kings have any chance of winning 2 games in San Francisco in games 3 and 4, and I mean that. But I've been wrong before. Jerry, how do you see this series going?
I'm going Kings in 7, fellas.
Okay.
Kings in 7.
All right. That would be something.
I just, it's kind of been a magical year, and I'm just saying, it just one more it'll take magic. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And
you're gonna need magic for 4 times, Jerry. Jerry, you're gonna need magic for 4 games.
I'm giving them a chance.
Yeah. Well, I'm giving them a chance too. I think the Warriors win this series in 6. And the reason for that, I think they're a better team. First of all, I don't care about the records. The Warriors are a better team. They have a superstar and they know how to win. And I think that the Kings being the first time around for Fox and Murray and some of the other players, I think that's going to be the difference in this series. So I hope it goes 7. That would be thrilling. I just think the Warriors are a little bit better in a lot of aspects of the game. And I think the backcourt's going to be the difference. And I think Curry and Thompson will be the difference in this series. It's a guard-oriented game. And I just think the guards of Golden State are going to outduel the guards of Sacramento. So that's why I think the Warriors win this series.
But Grant,
the only thing that I'd throw out there is I think I'm just not sure that Wiggins is going to be of value in this series. And, obviously with a healthy Wiggins, like he was last year, yeah, I would say it's clearly the Warriors, but I'm just, until I see it, I'm not going to give him credit for being, the
He'll
Andrew
probably
Wiggins
get
that we've
better as the
seen.
series goes on. Would you agree with that?
What's that?
I said he'll probably get better as the series goes on.
You would expect that. I also think you got to worry with a guy like that hasn't played a game since
Injury.
November, that injuries are even more likely.
Yep.
And things can go wrong. I mean, I'm
I
not
agree.
wishing that on anybody, but he hadn't trotted out there in a live game now since November, and that's a fact.
No, I do not disagree with that. I think, his muscles, hamstrings, everything else, that's going to be an issue. Don't you think, Ryan? That's the other unknown in this series, and Jerry's spot on. We really don't know how Andrew Wiggins is going to be.
Yeah, and we could all be wrong. He could be completely ready to go in himself in his finest form in game one. But yeah, history would tell you injuries could be a problem. Recovery could be an issue, not playing NBA basketball for that long. And it may take him, 3, 4, 5 games to get going until we see that fine form.
Well, and that's why the Kings really need to get the first win. I mean, the more games, you just figure Wiggins is going to get better and better. To expect him to be full Andrew Wiggins game one, I don't see that as a possibility.
No.
As it goes, we're going to see probably a better version of him.
Well, as long as you don't have Zion Williamson. Jerry, can you believe Zion Williamson said I can pretty much do anything, but I'm not going to play? What a joke, huh?
Well, it's sad. It's a sad state, of the league, really, to where, so many players, at the end of the year, top players not playing. Zion, I don't know about his injury or what people would say, but, at some point, he hasn't played enough to be a star.
No.
So why consider him one? And I'd say a little bit about, Kevin Durant, people just giving Durant and the Phoenix Suns a pass to the Western Finals or Finals. And I'm saying, wait a minute, this guy's missed more games the last 4 years than Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like Chris Paul if they're, I mean, I'll say this, I wouldn't say they wouldn't do it, but really they haven't looked all that dominant to me yet. So all I'm saying is I hope if the Kings can't get there, it'll be the Denver Nuggets. How's that?
Do you expect De'Aaron Fox to be very good to great in this series, guys?
Ryan.
Yeah, let me take that one. I expect De'Aaron Fox to see some different looks. You brought up Gary Payton Jr. earlier in this one, and I think the game plan for them is to try to deny the ball and try to keep the ball out of his hands, because once the ball's in his hands, it's a little bit more difficult, even if you are Payton.
Yep.
I actually expect Fox to be just as he is in clutch time, but I think he's going to take a little bit of a step back. And really, if the Kings want to win this, he knows that step needs to be taken back and things need to be ran through Sabonis, because when you look at the strengths, as we pointed them out, that is where the strength is with the Kings. And I'm not just saying you post up Sabonis, you put him at the high post where he's doing the dribble handoffs. You let him distribute. You let him help Fox get to his spots. And if he can do that, that allows the Kings to still play at a pace that's acceptable to them, but just not at Golden State's pace. And there's a higher likability that the ball's going through the hoop, which will further slow down Golden
Jerry,
State.
what do you think about Fox in this series? What do you expect from him?
Well, I think he's going to be good, but I do worry about a couple of things. I think, Golden State certainly aware of how valuable he is and how talented he is. And certainly Gary Payton and Dante DiVincenzo are good, both good defenders. And
Yes, they are.
He's going to get 48 minutes of very physical, hard-nosed defense on himself. And I think the Kings really, as Ryan pointed out, I think really for Fox, he needs to go through Sabonis maybe a little more. He's not going to be able to create as easy off the dribble as we've seen during the regular season. But I think he can get his points, but he's going to have to work a lot harder for him. That's for sure.
All right, Sea-Dog asked me, who's the biggest X factor for the Kings outside of Fox and Sabonis? I think it's Harrison Barnes. Harrison has been so steady. He's the one guy on that team that's got a championship pedigree. He's been through this before, and I think Fox and Sabonis will do their thing. I think you need a very good, consistent Harrison Barnes in this postseason. So to me, He's the X factor. I don't think the Kings can win this series if Harrison Barnes does not play very well. Ryan, we'll start with you on that.
I'm going to go with Kevin Huerter. I
Okay.
think Kevin Huerter, there's going to be a lot of attention on Fox, and Huerter did have a couple outbursts towards the end of the season.
Yep.
Huerter is going to have big games, and we've seen that Huerter can do it not just from behind the three-point line, but he can also take it to the hoop at times.
Good
and
point.
If he can draw some fouls on Thompson or Curry, that really helps out the Kings' case.
Jerry, what about you? Who's your X factor?
Malik Monk.
Okay.
I really, I think the Warriors bench is probably a little better, but
Yeah.
Malik could be a difference maker there because in this style of game, he can get it going almost like a Curry at times, and he can make plays. So I really think if he doesn't have an outstanding series, the Kings have no chance. I really believe that he can swing things a little bit. And certainly I think Huerter will gain a little opportunity because of Fox, but they're going to need, because the Warriors are going small a lot. That means the Kings can go small. And if Monk can come in and, he doesn't need to get 45 off the bench like he did against the Clippers, but, probably going to need 15, 18 every game from him. And if you get that, your chances just got better.
Jerry, who do you think wins the Lakers-Grizzlies series?
Oh, I'd like to see them both lose. But barring that, I think the Grizzlies are the better team. If they had Adams, I wouldn't even be worried about it. But losing Adams and Clark, the size factor. But, I really do. The Lakers are playing much better team than they were 2 months ago. But they it's not like a finished product there. And I, with Desmond Bain and Jackson and John Moran, I think there's some tough matchups. And Dylan Brooks is enough of a kind of a dickhead that he'll get into LeBron's psyche a little bit.
What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going Memphis as well. They really impressed me with what they did with Ja Morant out. We expected them to fall, and I feel like that's really when this team kind of came together. And on top of that, although the Lakers have been playing better, Exhibit A last night against an undermanned Timberwolves, they down 10 almost the entire game in a game that matters. So the Lakers are just too all over the place right now, and you don't know what you're going to get.
Hey, I want to tell you about Gold Country Veterinarian Hospital, all right? And they are located in Auburn. They are serving the foothills and the greater Sacramento area. They're a full-service veterinary medicine, dentistry, surgery, and wellness care. They're dedicated also to urgent care. Bottom line, when your pet needs to be seen, they are available. Full surgical care from spay, neuter packages to advanced orthopedic procedures such as ACL repairs, dentistry, and much more. Again, Gold Country Veterinarian Hospital. Appreciate them being a sponsor as well. And Jerry, just so you know, if you have trouble getting into the dentist, as you heard, they do dentistry. So, you never know,
Well, no, you don't. You got to keep all options open. And sometimes I'm like Mrs. Riddle says, sometimes I'm kind of an animal. So there you go.
Oh my gosh. All right. So this is an interesting question. We'll end on this, gentlemen. Sea-Dog says he thinks the Sixers and the Nuggets have the most pressure on them to perform and go deep into these playoffs. I would agree with Denver. Anybody disagree with that? I think the Nuggets and Michael Malone, it's time. They do have a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, I think I agree with both those.
Uh-huh.
Because Doc Rivers, if the Sixers don't go, at least to the Eastern Finals, I think they'll make a change there. Del Morey, he didn't hire Doc. And then I think with Michael Malone, I think the pressure is on him. Shouldn't be because he's a terrific coach and they'd get both of them probably get another job. But I think it's that time for Denver too. So I think both those teams have to make the finals of the East and West.
Ryan, what do you think?
100% on the Nuggets. And I feel like that pressure is on Coach Malone totally. And I think with the Sixers, yes, they have a lot of pressure too. And a lot of that's on Harden as well. We've seen James Harden not play well in the playoffs. And with the way Embiid's playing right now, if you have another low Harden performance, is this become a coaching issue or a James Harden issue?
Great point. Well, I hope it's a tremendous series. I hope it's a lot of fun. It's hard to believe, Jerry. You and I started doing the games together in the 90s. You were with the Kings when they moved from Kansas City. I was not. I moved to Sacramento in 87. But it's just mind boggling to me, Jerry. And you and I used to talk about this all the time, that this is the first year since the Kings have been in Sacramento that the Kings and Warriors are good in the same season. That's just amazing to me that they're in the
It
same
really
division.
is. I've
And it's
thought
the
about
first
that
time.
so
Yeah.
much, and I mean, it would have, all the years that, when the Kings were really good, the Warriors were terrible, and the Kings have been terrible recently while the Warriors were having their dynasty. And so it's great. It's great for
Yep.
Northern California fans. And what I would hope, and I think we're going to see several more years of this, and hopefully with
Yep.
the Kings are a little better prepared, maybe to have about 6 or 8 years, where the Warriors maybe 2 or 3.
Good point. Jerry, we really appreciate you joining us tonight. You enjoy the games. Thank you so much.
Enjoyed it. Always enjoy being on with you guys, and I know you do a great job out there at Bennett. So let's go Kings.
Awesome.
Go Kings.
Good stuff from Jerry, and Ryan and I will be at Bennett's. Hey, before we go, I want to tell you about New Works Plumbing, locally owned for over 20 years. They've got a fix for you. You can go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. That's sackserviceplumbing.com. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. Ryan, looking forward to being out there Saturday with you. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a great time, and hopefully everybody here, tell a friend, and all of you can attend because we're really looking forward to it.
All right. I want to thank everyone for joining us on this special. If you are new to us, please subscribe to the channel and hit the thumbs up, hit the like button. All right. So it takes a second. Just hit the thumbs up, the like button. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do though. All right. We will be at Bennett's in Roseville again. Game 1, Bennett's in Roseville, Eureka and Lead Hill Road. We'll be out there. We'll probably be out there by 3:30. The game's at 5:30, but we'll be out there between 3:30 and 4. Come say hi to us. Rhino, have a good evening, buddy.
You too. Thanks, partner.
Yeah, good stuff right there. And don't forget, tomorrow, right here on If You Don't Like That at 10:30, I'll be live with Larry Kruger from the Bay Area. We'll get his take on the Warriors and his pick in this first round matchup. So long, everybody. Thank you very much.